the Pediatric Lounge, a podcast taking you behind the door of the physician's lounge to get a deeper insight into just what docs are talking about today. From the clinically profound to the wonderfully routine and everything in between. Good morning, George.
How are you doing, Dr. Bravo?
Doing great. Another Tuesday morning, and we have one of my favorite guests and a repeat guest today.
Yeah, today we have Dr. James. Title of discussion, Setting Goals for 2026, at work, at home, and in life. So today we're talking about something every pediatric physician should do daily, even if they don't call it that by name, change management and implementation. Most practices are trying to grow, adapt, and improve, but they're doing it without a clear roadmap. And that's why we're thrilled to have Dr. James here, a seasoned pediatrician, the author of Secrets to Successful Pediatric Practice. Cliff has built a national reputation for helping practices plug revenue leaks, improve coding, and expand services, and to straighten the business side of pediatrics. Cliff has a really good way of explaining this. He says, some people hear music and play instinctively, and they can pivot without thinking, but most practices need sheet music. And that's where he's right. Very few of us can improvise our way to success. We need structure, systems, and clear goals, especially heading into 2026. What sets Cliff apart is that he understands both sides, the day-to-day realities of patient care and the systems that make the pediatric practice stronger, more efficient, and profitable without sacrificing quality. Cliff, welcome to the Pediatric Lounge. We're excited to have you here and help us all set smaller, clearer goals for 2026. Take it away.
Great to be here.
So what's new with you, Cliff? You've been on LinkedIn quite a bit lately.
I had to take a break from everything. I've done a lot of consulting. About 3 years ago, I ended up with kidney cancer and then ended up with the subsequent issues that have to do with that. And ended up going through a divorce as well. So had to step back, look at things, try and reset things financially. And so now past all those things and going back to what was my initial goal of helping pediatricians make more money in their practice. And so years ago, we talked before, my reason for doing this, I think everybody needs a calling beyond just seeing pediatric patients, which I think is a great calling in of itself. I think all of us need to do something where we make the world a better place. And so we have people that do research. We have people like George, who's helped people with their adoptions and things like that. And I learned fairly early on that I was really good at the business of pediatrics. And I see all the time online where pediatricians are actually actively telling our students that they shouldn't go into pediatrics because they can't make enough money and they can't make a good living and they'll never be able to pay back their student loans. That hurts me because this is the best profession. It has so much rewards just in getting hugs from our patients and watching them grow. I'm now on my second generation where I'm seeing babies that I saw be born who are now bringing me their kids. And it's just extremely rewarding. And I hate to see people get turned away from that joy and that happiness we can have in a profession because of financial stuff. And I have definitely found out that you can make an extremely good living with pediatrics if you know what you're doing and you apply those and you put those into place. I have proven that I can make as much in pediatrics as anybody in any profession does. And so my goal is, as I'm looking forward to the next 10, 15 years, is trying to teach pediatricians how to do better financially so that next generation can learn we can change the future of pediatrics. Because I think on our current road, if we don't start recruiting young physicians to go into pediatrics, we're looking at a profession that will become largely dominated by nurse practitioners and PAs because there's just not going to be enough pediatricians going into it.
So you said so much there, and I have so many inappropriate questions.
Ask them.
What was worse, the marriage, the divorce, or the kidney cancer?
Divorce. That was $2 million that I won't give back.
But you got your freedom now.
I do. I do. And
But how much is your freedom and your happiness worth, man?
$2 million.
The millions and maybe 5. I don't know.
They actually put a number on it.
You guys are terrible. I learned, I've been married for 35 years, the same girl. She's the best. All right. She's a physician.
Right.
We went to medical school together. She probably saved my butt a million times in school and the ESMLE and all that kind of stuff. The key to financial success, I think, is pretty darn simple. One job, one house, one wife.
Yes, that would be a good rule.
How about that? That doesn't seem to be, the data doesn't ferret that out. 50% of marriages end up in divorce.
But George, I think you had something that you said there that made you guys successful. You met in school and in training. And I think you have a very different attitude when you build something together and you go through those things, then they're definitely apart. Being married to a physician is not easy, especially when that's not something that's normally in your realm. And then when you come into it later, when things have already been built, there's a certain, I think, different mindset that you have than if you go through the hard times and you build. By the time I got married, I was already making $400,000 a year. I wasn't struggling any at all. And it's a different mindset than when you start with zero and you build everything together.
And the other thing is most physicians, and this is statistically correct, most physicians do not stay with the first practice they join because you don't really know anything.
Well,
And
that was
so
true for
you're
me.
there, and you don't understand the importance of culture. You don't understand the importance of value. What is a practice values? You don't ask because you don't know. It's, I think I want to pass my boards and can I have a job? Because I need to start making money. Yeah. Here's a salary. Here's the days you work. And you don't know any better. You're a kid. And the people hiring aren't smart enough to go, before we talk about your competency as a physician, let's talk about our values. Whatever those are. For George's, they're open 8 days a week. There are many successful practices across the US that are not open 8 days a week. And that's their value. They're like, no, people need to rest on the weekend. We want people who are rested and happy to come into work on Monday. And then there's luck. You meet for no other reason that you're lucky. You interview the right group. They hire you. They mentor you. And you
That's it, right there. The mentoring part, I think, is key.
But
Absolutely.
But that's luck. That's luck.
I think to Herbert's thing is that just like when we got out of school, when we were going through medical school and residency, when we were doing history and physical, we emulated the people that taught us. It was very scripted.
Yeah.
It takes a couple years before you learn your flow, what fits with you, your conversational tone, and then it becomes you. And I have noticed with students when they come through with me after end of a month, they start to sound a lot like me. But that's with them.
That is so true.
They haven't found them yet. And I think that's what happens when you go to a practice. I originally came out of residency. I started working for a group practice and I was just excited to have a paycheck. And then I started realizing over those 2 years that there were things that I wanted to do that they were not going to let me. They were so much older. They were at the end of their career. It was going to take me 10 years to build what I wanted. And so that's why I went off on my own after the first 2 years, is that I knew that if I was going to create something I wanted to grow in the way that I wanted it to be, I was going to have full control in order to do that.
Touch back a little bit on that, because I think this is everything you said was true in the beginning, except here's where I would push back. Nurse practitioners don't want to go into primary care. It's hard work, low pay. They can go work 4 days a week at a orthopedic surgeon or a dermatologist, a neurosurgeon, and the money's much better. And it's easier. They don't have to see 20 patients a day. They see 10 patients a day.
I would say that, I don't know, that may be true where you're at. Now, what has happened in my area is they've made it the barriers to entry and the fact that they can work in a regular nursing job while they go into nurse practitioner school. It's become so easy to get through that school. We have a glut. And so we have so many nurse practitioners and PAs that they can't even find jobs. So they're willing to take. I'll tell you, when 15 years ago, the starting salary for a PA in my area was 105,000. They have put out so many that now the starting salary for a PA in my area is 85,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because we have too many. There's too many of them. They can't find jobs.
Yeah. You don't know how many resumes I throw in the circular file of nurse practitioners. I won't hire them. You don't know how many. I feel bad when this happens. I get outreach emails from them saying, can I rotate? I want to do my clinical exposure with you. And I said, no, I only train medical students and physicians. That's it.
The problem that I have in my area is I can't find a physician. I can't find one that's going to be willing to work full time. People are like, I have a PA that's worked with me for 14 years. Great guy, works right next to me. In fact, my kids, it's funny, my kids, both my sons want to be doctors. They think they need a Mel. We've worked so long together that they think that in order to be a doctor, they have to have Mel. They're like, no, you can do this without having a Mel. But trying to find a physician that will come to my area and be able to work full time and see people and have something to grow has become something that they all want to work 2.5 days a week or less. And
Where's your area? Tell us.
I'm in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, outside of Knoxville, Tennessee.
So if anybody's nearby looking for a job, let them hit you up.
I have one right now where you could go into a practice and build. And Herb and I have talked on LinkedIn. The amount that my PA makes more than most pediatricians. PA this year will probably make $240,000 a year. But he'll outwork everybody that comes there too.
so I have a question for you. 2 questions for you. One is, are you a suburb or more rural?
I'm suburb, so I have a very interesting town. Oak Ridge is what's called the secret city. We have the most like PhD level physicists per concentration probably in the world, because this is where the Department of Energy is. This is where I think the world's largest supply of uranium is here. We're the ones that develop the rods for all the nuclear submarines and satellites and everything like that.
Okay. All right. And then what was I think that not every NP or PA is the same.
Oh, absolutely. But same true of us.
It's
Every
just
doctor is the same either.
a lot of low quality pediatricians out there.
Yeah.
But I do think that, for example, I've seen pediatric nurses and pediatric LPNs and pediatric MAs. They're very talented. They've learned on the job. And then they go on to get their NP, and they got 15, 20 years of clinical experience.
That's a different animal,
And
Herb.
that is,
Totally different animal. That's
and
the
if
way
they-
it was designed. Hold
and
on.
if they have good, not ability, if they're affable, if they got good, what's the word I'm using for it? Not only are they intelligent, but they're easy to get along with.
That's like
And-
the PA that I've worked with for
And
years.
it's
He started off in radiology. He was a radiology tech, MRI tech, CT tech. He did that for 20 years before he went to school to be a PA.
Yeah, now what's happening, they're going to LPN school, they're going to RN school, they're going to NP school. They don't even touch the doorway of a hospital or a hospital bed or a patient.
And some of them do it online, and their
Yeah, and
rotations
they do their classes online. And
And
they're
they-
20 years old. No, thank you.
rotations are with the Jack in the Box. Because what kind of quality?
That's what's coming out there.
But I just want to, I'm going to be fair to that profession. There are some really great people. And in pediatrics, there's some really not so good clinicians. And they're even worse business managers.
Yes.
And that's where we have to change things. We have to show, and that's one of my goals is I want to show that you can make a great living or a great lifestyle in pediatrics so that we start drawing the best, the brightest, and we're not trying to push them away just because they can't pay their extraordinary student loans. When we're talking about goals, I have a crazy goal for the next year. My goal for the next year is to make $1.5 million.
Oh, I love it.
So why? I don't need $1.5 million, but I'll tell you this, and this is going to sound really crazy. I don't even like this guy, but I loved what his wife said. So there's this guy online, you'll find him. His name's Grant Cardone. He teaches like real estate and stuff like that. He's not a great person, I don't think. I wouldn't try and emulate him, but his wife said something to him. I saw it at either TikTok or LinkedIn or something. She said, Grant, you need to become a billionaire. He goes, why? We're worth like $150 million. We have a private jet. We go on these great vacations. Why would I want to be a billionaire? And she was like, you need to be a billionaire so that you can make a statement that you can show that you can do it. And if you can do it, then people will have no choice but to listen to you. You have a better platform. My whole thing was, okay, I'm going to make, and I did this about 4 years ago. I was like, I'm going to make $1 million a year. And so I did it. And it was like, prove it's possible. Now the next one is, I'm going to make them 1.5. Why? So I can show that you can do it. And then if I can show that you do it, then you won't have these comments, because you get these comments online. It's, the math isn't mathing. The reason the math doesn't math is because you're using the wrong calculator. And until you can actually think of things like a business person and how to make it work, your math's never going to work because you're not using the same calculations. But when you do that and you show that it's possible, then that's a game changer, because now it's no longer just something you think about and think, hey, this is a dream. No, I can make it happen. If I can make it happen, trust me, there is nothing special about me. I'm in a little town. This town has 36,000 people in it. I have competition. There's 2 other practices in town. It's not like I am in a city that I'm surrounded by billionaires and this just happens. No, it's just good old fashioned work and putting business essentials in place and knowing what you're doing. You can do this anywhere in the country if you put the right principles in place.
So I have 2 comments about that. So comment number 1, and there's a question. I saw a motivational speaker. He's an African American. I think he's a preacher, and I don't remember. He's in Detroit, I believe. And he had plenty of money, but he's into philanthropy. So he wants to help young African American kids and mentor them. And his business advisor said to him, okay, your foundation made whatever, $20 million this year. You took 20 kids to Europe and showed them what Europe was, kids that don't have enough money for bus money. Why are you stopping at 20 million? He said, I have enough. He said, you're helping 20 kids. Wouldn't it be better if you helped 500 kids or 2,000 kids? Why are you stopping at 20 million? And he's, what do you mean? He said, do you have a limit on how many kids you want to help? And he said, no. He said, then you should not have a limit on what your foundation should make. Because the more money you bring in, the more children you help. The sky's the limit. Don't limit yourself. And if that's your why, if you want to do something to help people, and you can help 10, but you can build it up to help 200 or 500, you should not sell yourself short. The other question is,
Or before you go to the other question, I know that you're developing some kind of a foundation too to help pediatricians, right? Why don't you give it a plug?
so ours is not a foundation. The Society for Innovation in Pediatrics is about what Cliff is talking about. We have been sold out by the white coat organizations who never minded what I call when you're on the plane and you get on the plane, they say, in the case of the emergency, put the face mask over the adult first, then take care of the children or people who can't put the mask on their face. And that's true of mothers, and that's true of pediatricians. You got to take care of the mom, you got to take care of the pediatrician before you can take care of the kid. And that lesson was lost on the white coat organizations
Yes.
for far too long. And there's this embarrassment on the socialist pediatrician, and there are plenty of them, that we should not get paid for the work we do and the value that we do bring. And their hair, their blue hair, sets on fire when I say a pediatrician should make no less than $350,000 a year, have 6 weeks paid vacation so that they are emotionally, spiritually intact when they come in to take care of your kid. And they should work no more than 4 days a week so that they have a life. They go nuts. We're here for the kids. Yeah, but if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of the kids. So we want to educate pediatricians. We don't want to leave anybody behind. We don't want to leave pediatricians in rural America behind. Nobody ever takes care of them. Nobody ever reaches to the solo practitioner. They're forgotten.
Absolutely.
Nobody speaks clearly like I do. 350 is not that much for the work that we do. And it can't be on seeing 40 patients a kid, because then you are what pediatricians are right now in America, Walmart level of care. It's low margins, high volumes, poor customer service. You get the cheap thing made in China and you throw it away next week, you'll buy another one. That's not healthcare, and that's
Right.
not what the kids deserve, and that's not what our profession deserves. So yeah, we should not be embarrassed to say those things out loud and to move forward to make those things happen.
How are you going to do that? What is it called?
What did you want it to call this? The Society for Innovation in Pediatrics.
Pediatrics, coming to a movie theater near you soon.
The question about that, because this stuff dovetails into all of this conversation, is what do we do to that end of career physician who has, in public health too, who are unwilling to accept that the world changes every day, and that what you did 30 years ago that made you successful no longer works today. And that simply saying, I've had this practice for 30 years and it's allowed me to put my kids through college, doesn't work, because today your practice is losing money.
Right.
So how do we need to change those people, because these practices go out of business. The young medical students see how this is failing. The community sees how this is failing. And they're like, no way, that doesn't work. And I don't know how you change the mindset of those individuals.
The way you change the mindset is you change the mindset of what a pediatric practice is. And this is true of all doctors. They go in, they name their practice Dr. Cliff James Pediatrics. Drives me crazy. You don't name it after yourself. It's not a business. It's your name. And so many of the times doctors don't own a business. They own a job. And the practice is worth nothing because it's only worth their name. The moment they step out, that practice is worth zero. And so you have to change the mindset. Practice is a business and it's an asset. And it's something that you should grow and you should nurture so that it becomes something that you then, toward the end of your life, it's an asset. It's something that you're building towards your retirement that you can sell or that you can step back and still make profit off and get a recurring revenue, just like any other business. If you do that, you need to know how to establish the valuation of your practice. What makes those multipliers? What is the EBITDA? What makes up that value? How do you calculate that? How do you calculate the multipliers? What makes those multipliers go up? What, is the detriment to the value of your practice? What makes it more valuable? And then you aim toward those things. And then as you get toward the end of your practice time, you start thinking of succession time. Because if you don't, what happens to your keeper of your medical records? You're going to be paying someone to take care of those. You need a succession plan so that you bring in young physicians, you tutor them, you have someone then to sell the practice to. Because just trying to sell a practice to some Joe Smoke, they're not going to give you any money. But if you bring someone in, you tutor them, you bring them in, you sell them a portion of the practice at a true valuation. I don't know how many times people come in, they're going, oh yeah, you buy in your practice, we'll give you buying at $50,000. What is that? $50,000 isn't a business. $50,000 is just a goodwill, and then we're going to sell it for $50,000 when you're done. No, I want to practice that when I build it up, it's worth $6 million. And I'm going to bring people in, and then I'm going to sell them part of the practice. And then as it goes along, I'm going to start selling out more and more of my shares, so I have less and less to do with the business. But that's the way business works. And until you start thinking about that, you just think that you're owning a job. And so we change the mindset. Like, okay, we're going to own a practice, but it's going to be a business, and we're going to set it up as a business. And just like any other business, if it's not profitable, it's a terrible business to be in.
Oh, okay. So that cracks me up, because they're losing money, or they claim to be losing money. And they're like, I'll just sell the practice. And I'm like, and who you think is going to pay you for something that is not making money? I made money. I'm like, you made your salary. When you leave the practice, the owner is going to have to replace you and probably pay more because you're hiring doctors, so you got to provide them with benefits. They're not going to work without health insurance. They're not going to work without disability insurance. They're not going to work without life insurance, and they shouldn't. And so you have no profit. You have a salary. And the day you're gone, you'll walk into this office, you'll have a temper tantrum, and you'll say, I'm done. And you'll walk out, and I can just rent the space next door and hire 2 nurse practitioners, and the patients will come there without paying you a dime and make more money. So your practice is worth 0. It needs an investment of 100 grand to make it work like a real business. And as long as you're sitting in that chair being stubborn, I don't want to deal with you.
When I start a new practice, I figure it costs $1 million.
Really?
When I start one, I just know that it's going to cost me $1 million. That's what I go into thinking that it's going to cost me, because I'm going to have to renovate a building. I'm going to have to buy the equipment for the building, and I'm going to have to get all the supplies, and I'm going to have to pay a staff. If I'm starting from a cold start, it's going to take at least 2 years before it comes profitable. So over those 2 or 3 years, if I'm doing a cold start, I'm going to have $1 million in a business. Okay. If I'm going to go into $1 million business, I need to have a plan. And so just our goal of today of talking about goal setting and putting plans, you need to have those plans in place. You need to know how it works. And most of us were never taught that of what makes a business profitable. To be honest, when I got into it, Herbert was talking about luck. There was a lot of it. We started young. My group that I started with, none of us, the only reason I think we became profitable and we worked is we were too dumb to know it couldn't work. We just went after it and somehow locked into it. And so became extremely profitable. But when I started actually paying for an education, oh, George, I know you have your master's degree in business and stuff like that.
I was told I don't need it. I shouldn't do it. And because they told me don't do it, I did it.
Well, and I took a little different route. Instead of going that route, I paid for mentors. I did. I bought coaches. I guarantee, I was just talking to one of the guys I work with. I guarantee I spent $200,000 on coaches and mentors, and it was everything. It was marketing. It was subscription services. It was business. It was financial. I paid him $44,000 in a year. And he goes, $44,000. I go, yeah, but that was the year I went from making $350,000 to $700,000. And it was purely off of the things that I learned, or it made my brain think different. And so I started implementing those, and my business exploded. You got to pay, you have to have people, you got to know what you're doing. And you pay for your education one way or another. You're going to pay in mistakes, or you can pay somebody to get you there faster. And I just prefer to pay somebody to get me there faster.
Yeah, the interesting thing with the education, the higher business education, is I did the MBA. Truthfully, I didn't really learn much, anything new in that MBA class. I probably could have wrote the programs better because everything was learned inside the office. Every single project was from within inside my office. But I did do a lot of mentorships and seminars and courses with different people. But the MBA, what that does is it validates you somehow. They pay more attention, those idiots at the insurance companies pay more attention to you. When there's George Rogo MD, who cares? When there's George Rogo MD MBA, all of a sudden it's a different person. It's the same George.
So just broadly speaking, why is setting goals important?
Yes. Get back to the topic.
It's kind of like you're a map or your GPS on your thing. If you just take off from your house and aim in a direction, where are you going to end up? So you're setting your goal. Your first goal should be your endpoint. Where do you want to go? And so many of the times, this is how we set our goals. And I would be definitely guilty of this. And then I would have a little sheet of paper. And Mel and I would do this at the beginning of every year for several years in a row. And we would have 5 things that we wanted to accomplish in the year. So it was always about the same things. It was like, I want to go to a vacation, and this is where I want to go this year. I want to pay off these bills. I want to lose 15 pounds. I want to spend more time with my kids, and I want to make this amount of money. And that would be our goals for that year. And they would sit there and we would look at them and we'd get a couple of them done. But we didn't have great success. And the reason that we didn't have great success is they weren't really truly goals. They were dreams. They were little things that we thought, hey, this would be nice. When you truly set a goal, you look at it and you go, it's like this. I want to make $1.5 million this year. Okay, that's great. How are you going to do it? Is it even possible? So let's break it down a little bit smaller. I want to increase my practice. I want to grow my practice 15%. Okay. So I look at that and I go, okay, so how much did I bill last year? Last year I billed $10 million. Okay. So if I'm going to bill 15% more, I need to increase by $1.5 million. What does that look like? So you divide that on 12, and then you divide it by 20 days a month. And then that tells you how many, and then how much I bill per patient. I bill $305 per patient. So I come up to, all of a sudden, I have to be able to see 22 extra patients per day, somehow across all my system, to be able to increase 1.5 million. In my case, it was real easy. I just hired a person. So I got a person that doesn't have a schedule at all. All I got to do is get them up to 22 patients per day. I did that. But then I sit there and I go, well, I know I'm not going to be able to do that across, just got to bill. So I go, oh, I need some cushion. So what else am I going to do? I also know that 2 of the practices that I started, they're starting their 3rd year. So they still got growth. So then I look at what I did last year compared to what I'm doing at the end of this year. And I'm like, okay, if I just stay the same where I am now, at the end of the year, and I go into next year, what does that actually look like? Then it comes out to, I really only need to see an extra 58 patients per month to be able to make that with my new person. That's doable. I want a little extra cushion. I want to make sure I make that 1.5. So then I go, okay, what else I need to do? So then I look at, okay, what else am I looking at doing this next year? So I've added medical ear piercing to the office. I have a plan for what I call my VIP program, where it's a combination of a concierge medicine and then just a VIP kind of white glove treatment for a select number of patients, where they're going to have a subscription where they pay monthly. I'm like, okay, so at this point, I'm not on track to bill an extra $1.5 million next year. I easily have a plan to bill an extra $2.5 million next year. So now I've over planned for my 1.5. So if something doesn't work and I'm having to adjust along the way, I'm not going to freak out and lose my ability to make my goal. So I make my goal. I see if it's possible. I then put the thing in place of what I need to do to make that happen. What personnel do I need? Who do I need to talk to get this done? What do I need to do? So like for my new person, what am I going to need to do for my advertising? How am I going to need to bring in new patients? How am I going to bring in quality patients? All those things become into that plan to make that goal.
Stop right there, because you just said so much. Okay. But let's try to summarize what you're saying, because these techniques we use in the exam room every day.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about 2 things. One is the biggest mistake we do when we set goals is we look backwards. So weights is a perfect example. If you want to lose 15 pounds and you weigh yourself every 3 months, what's going to happen? Nothing. Because the scale is looking at what you did for the last 3 months. You can't change what you did for the last 3 months. What you're talking about is finding out what points have leverage and doing it today. And so in weight management, which is easy because we all understand when we get middle age, if you exercise more and you eat healthier and less calories, when you weigh yourself, and every 3 months is terrible to be measuring anything, but when you weigh yourself every week, you will start noticing incremental changes. And you don't need to change 15 pounds in a week. If you lose a pound a week, in 15 weeks, you'll reach your goal. But the leverage is in how much exercise you do, what kind of exercise you do today, and what you eat today.
And the other thing, and this is where the problem comes in with that, a lot of times with the same with all our goals, is that when we don't, when we put this plan in place and we say we want to do this, and as we're going along, there's one, the assessment. Am I losing any weight? Okay. The one thing I think people have a hard time with and where they give up is when that didn't happen the way they wanted to, they give up and they assume that it was not possible. They put one thing in place and they tried it. And then if it didn't work, it's like, I'm done. So that's the same thing with every year. The United States goes, and in January 1st, the number of people that went and joined a gym skyrockets. If you try and get into the gym the first 2 weeks of January, you're not going to be able to get on a machine because everybody's there. About the third week becomes empty because people stop dropping off because they didn't get that instant gratification. So when making a goal, you have to go, this is what I want to lose 15 pounds. I'm going to do my first assessment to see how I'm doing the first month. I'm going to look at it on a weekly basis. But I also need to have plans that if I'm not go the direction that I want to, my plan didn't fail. I just need to add something. So if I've been trying to cut calories and that hasn't worked, I don't stop cutting calories. Now I just try to add some exercise, or I try to get more sleep, try to reduce my stress. I try to decrease my cortisol. I look at these other things. And then if it's not working and I'm not going as well on my own, I need help. I need a coach. I need a mentor. I need someone who's going to hold me responsible and look and tell me, hey, your problem is, yeah, you cut calories and everything, but you're still drinking 3 liters of Mountain Dew to keep you awake during the day. That's where your problem is. And then someone to hold you accountable. And so when you make those goals, you have to set in where the hiccups are going to be and how I'm going to handle the hiccups too.
So I love a system which the psychiatrists and psychologists developed called SMART. And the S in SMART is for specific, but I say for small. Small, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Yep.
So your goal should be small and specific. This, like you just said, you just highlighted the system. My goal is to get 25 more patients a week throughout the system. That means 5 patients a day. And this is what I'm going to measure and how I know it's achievable. And it's time bound. I expect to get this done within this time period. And the peer-to-peer and the pediatricians are too cheap to do this is incredibly important. That's why I think Project Echoes, masterminds, where 20 smart pediatricians sit around for an hour once a month, and they talk about what strategies work and what don't, and they pay for a facilitator. Don't be cheap. And somebody that can motivate people to do stuff. And that peer support, because you're going to have to present your data next month, makes you get irritable bowel syndrome. And so you don't want to lose, so you make sure you get the goal. And the same thing with gyms. People they've shown it over and over again. If you get a gym buddy, like the 3 of us were in the same city, and we make a commitment to meet at 6 a.m. to go work out twice a week, you show up because you don't want to disappoint your friends.
Well, I'll tell you something else I think we've lost. I don't know about you guys, but at least where I went to college and medical school, we used to be the most cutthroat people alive to get into medical school. We were competitive. You had to make great grades. We competed to get into medical school. And while in medical school, we were competing to be at the best of medical school because we wanted to go to the best residencies. Something happens when we get done that somehow we think that we're done and then we quit competing. And I think by having peer stuff, you're like, I'm not going to let them beat me. I know, like when I got the show notes, the original show notes from George, he had some stuff and he had one that was called, I think it's called Freed AI. that he was talking about for note taking and stuff like that. And I'm like, I didn't nerd with that one. George knows about it. George is smart in business. I'm going to go find. I've already looked that sucker up. I've already talked to people. I'm like, yeah,
It's all time, buddy. Just do it.
trust. My problem with AI stuff is I don't know what you guys use, but I use Office Practicum.
What are you doing?
I can get my notes faster. My notes are so fast now that by the time I do my introduction, I'm going to have use this artificial intelligence to listen to this so they can chart on them. I'm already done charting because I have such an extensive amount of my templates and stuff like that. I can see an incredible amount of patients. My charts are done by the time I leave the office. I'm not doing anything in the evening, but also that's me. I'm incredibly fast. I got people that work for me who are not. So this is something I'm going to have to do for them because they're killing me because they won't get their charts done. I'm sitting there so just by doing this, I don't just look at it and go, that's good, whatever. No, I'm going to sit there. If George knows something I don't know, I'm going to go look in.
And you know what's very interesting? The reason I got involved with it is because our buddy Igor told me about it, and I didn't want to do it. I said the same story that you said. I'm good at the charts. I got the templates. The next day he told me, I have medical students that are scribing for me anyway. And the third day he told me about it, we were at a conference at Office Practicum together. He says, George, do you want to go through life knowing that I knew something that you didn't? That's what sold me, the competition.
And it's something that you look at each other. And I think that's what somehow that disappeared in pediatricians. And I don't know why, because we all had it. We wouldn't have gotten to medical school without it.
Because everybody got a trophy in Little League. That's why.
You guys are pointing out to something that's very important. Not any one of these solutions is good enough.
No.
Yeah, I do think the AI is helpful in the complicated patients, like the obese patients, ones with mental health. Not so much on the 2-month-old well child exam that has no risk factors and the mother doesn't have any questions and you can just press a button and it populates. So not so much there. Some of our colleagues, and you can do this, and Igor does this, and Susan Sirota does it differently. I think for some clinicians, a virtual AI at $10 an hour that keeps your chart tight, that problem is tight, that assessment tight, and that they can just say, I want to see this patient in 2 days. And that $10 an hour virtual employee makes that happen is better than the templates and or the AI, because they have problems for whatever reason they can't do that. And from a management perspective, I don't want an employee doctor spending any time maintaining the problem list or making sure that the patient makes a follow-up appointment. That's wasted time, and he's the most expensive employee. So if I hire somebody for $10 an hour on a tablet to do all that for him or her and make them happier when they go home, that they are refreshed and want to come back the next day and do more work, heck, that $100 I'm spending a day is going to multiply times maybe to 1,000 a day I'm going to make back in revenue.
That's what I tell. Like, I had one clinic that was underperforming and talked to the staff. I'm like, the only way we make money is if that doctor's in a room. If they're outside of a room, we ain't making nothing. If they're sitting there and they're looking through charts and they're trying to find lab results or they're making phone calls, or if there's anything that you can do that keeps them from doing that, do it. You see 2 extra patients per day. You make $72,000 extra a year. So anything that I can do that makes that doctor have enough extra time that they can see 2 extra patients a day will make that happen. This is another thing with goals. People say, I'm going to see 2 extra patients. Okay, did you have 2 extra patients that were even trying to come in? Are those people even there? Do you have any time? How are you? So again, even with that goal, you'd have to sit there and go, okay, I want to do this. Now you need the next step. How do I get those patients in? How do I see those patients? How do I make sure this doesn't encroach on my quality of life? And so you put those things in place because that's the only way it's going to happen.
So many things. Talking to you is so phenomenal. We could do a Joe Rogan 3 hour. I can't today, but next time we will. Here's what you're saying, right? Here's an example, a real life example. I want to make more money, but my staff is costing me too much. So I'm going to cut the hours but see more patients. That doesn't work.
It's like that's the same mentality of people go, I pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. I have people that'll say, taxes are they're killing me. I don't want to make any more money because I'm just going to pay more taxes. That's stupid. I
So,
want
so
to pay, and I want to have to pay as much money as I possibly can in taxes because that means I'm making more money.
yeah. So it goes to ability, affability, and access, right? If you don't want to follow up on the abnormal A1C in one of your patients because it's too much of a hassle, you're not going to do good quality. You're not going to make money. If you cut back hours as opposed to cut back on staff because your revenue is down, that's a hard thing to do, but it is what it is. It's a business. I got 5 people helping me and I need 2. So somebody's got to go. There's no easy, it sucks, but that's the truth. And you want to see more patients, but you don't advertise and you don't have an avatar. You don't know that seeing a 17-year-old kid on Medicaid who is female for a physical for the first time in your office is a
You know,
waste of your freaking time. It's only a headache, a lawsuit coming. Forget it. You're 17, you're on Medicaid, you're female, you don't have a doctor. You just spelled out trouble and money losing for my practice. Go to the federally qualified health center, stand in line for 8 weeks, not my problem. If you're not a newborn, I don't want you. Now, I'm being streamed, right? Under 12, or if you have a newborn in the practice and you want to switch all your kids over, sure, we'll do that for you. But you're a random 17-year-old that want, especially female, because their anatomy is different, despite what the liberals will tell you that all of our anatomies are normal, but they're not. Like I'll tell you another story to crack you up in a second. But they're a money loser. They're a money loser, and like a garden, you got to take the weeds out, you got to keep the rabbits out, and you got to make sure you got the beautiful roses that bloom, because in relationships, in your personal life, and in business, the ones that do well are the ones that keep the beautiful roses, feed them, nurture them, and keep the weeds and the rabbits and the insects out of the roses.
I don't know about what you guys do, but for the last 14 years, the only way you can come see me, you are a newborn with private insurance. That's the only patients I take. One was because I grew so fast that you had to have a way to control it. But the other thing for me is I can practice my best pediatric care when I know the family very well. If I can start them from the beginning, my whole goal when I walk in is I'm going to teach them little slices of pediatrics. And I get the joy of watching. I don't just take care of a kid, I'm taking care of a family. And as they go through their second or third kid, I love when they quote me back to me. Like, Dr. James, the reason I'm here is because we've had a cold for 3 or 4 days. Now we have a fever. And you've always told us that if we have a fever in the middle, that's when we're going to have to worry about a secondary infection. That's the reason we're here. Good. You listened. And if I start from them in the beginning, it just becomes, it's something that, yes, you make more money with it by doing, but you also, it's just much more rewarding. I get to teach them. I get to teach them that every time you come in, you're not going to get an antibiotic. I get to teach them antibiotic stewardship. I have them now, they'll come in and they'll have gone to an urgent care and they'll see a nurse practitioner and they'll come into me saying, they go, I don't know what happened. I saw them. They did the strep test. The strep test was negative and they put me on amoxicillin because they said there could be some infection. And you've always told me that they shouldn't do that. I'm like, great. Let's go find out what's actually wrong.
Right. And I appreciate you. Like these, I mean, like mental health is hard. And especially if there's a lot of trauma and dysfunction in the family. It's very hard. You know that warfarin and clonidine decrease aggression. So you have a kid in foster care, they're very aggressive, and you can just make sure they sleep at night and make sure that they're not as aggressive. You haven't really cured them.
Oh,
You have
speaking
to
of
think
which,
the world.
completely off topic. I saw you guys talking about leucovorin.
Yes.
And I was on the bandwagon probably a little earlier because I see some autistic kids. I see a lot of ADHD kids. But in taking my extreme autistic kids that are very far, the nonverbal, the very aggressive and stuff like that. This is where I'll sit there every once in a while, the American Academy of Pediatrics, think get something wrong is I've started using that in some of these kids, and I have had some results that will make grown people cry.
Okay, so
Yeah.
tell me
So,
what your protocol is. Do you do the testing or you just
no, I don't do the testing. It's a damn vitamin. What do I
okay.
care?
All
And
right, so tell me how much you started, what patient do you select?
I select my ones that are, you and I both know that autism is very different than it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's every quirky kid. They think they're on the spectrum. So I basically use my thing. If they were autistic 30 years ago, let's try it.
Okay. And then do
And I
you
tell
try
them, I go, it's not going to peak out until the second or third month. Let's see what happens
yeah.
this first month. And if I see any positive changes, and so when I'm looking at stuff, I'm looking at, are they less aggressive? Are they starting to babble more? Have they started listening more? If I see anything that's in a positive attribute first month, I go, okay, let's go. Let's boost the dose and let's see what we got. If they don't have anything, I go, I don't think we're going the right track. But I have had so many moms come into my office and cry because they saw, and I will tell you, I have one kid, he comes in, he's a big kid. He's 8, 9 years old. That kid has been trying to kill me since he was 15 months old. He is mean. He is hateful. I hate those exams because he is going to try and kick my butt. And the other day he came in and when we were done, he hugged me.
Oh, wow.
And when he hugged me, that mom broke into tears because that kid has done nothing but try and kill me for the last 9 years. And to see that kind of stuff is amazing. And that's why what we do is the best thing on the planet.
Yeah.
And again, that's my drive is I want to change pediatrics so that doctors can see that sort of stuff because you see something where you can make a person's life difference and those mamas are living this stuff. Daddies is it seems we can check out, but mamas can't. And to see something like that and to finally have a difference where I can do something. Because basically before that, if we were doing anything, we were just drugging them into being good. We were just turning them into zombies and stuff so they wouldn't hurt people. But to make it something where there was no side effects and these kids do something and finally be able to make a difference where it was something I made a difference. Now, therapy, the school systems, ABA therapies have done some amazing things with kids over time. And I guess the only credit I could do is I did a referral. But if I could start something like that and make a difference, I'm definitely not going to be the gatekeeper.
Yeah,
No.
one of my partners in my office, Dr. Riley, he's been doing this. I think he's become so well known in the community that he probably could stop practicing general pediatrics, but he doesn't. And I can attest that what you're saying, because I would refill, when he goes on vacation, I refill the leucovorin on telemedicine for him. The stories are always the same, people crying and thanking him. It's not evidence-based, but at least he does a test, that FRAT test.
It's quasi evidence based. I think that there are some strong signals that this in the right patient population may have an impact. And we all start somewhere. We are old enough that we use albuterol syrup.
Yeah.
I'm old enough I used theophylline. They had to titrate double.
I think albuterol syrup was before. No, maybe it was after theophylline. But that's all we had.
We're old enough that we were doing steroids and albuterol for every RSV patient too. And I think that's where you have to, we were talking about how do you make these old people change? The world's changed. Medicine changes, business changes, and you got to keep up with it. But the nice thing is there are certain things that when we were learning, when we were going through our training, there were certain ways that they taught us how to diagnose patients, touch patients, see patients, make diagnoses. Those don't change. No matter what, I mean, The recommendations for circumcisions have changed 4 times since I've been in practice. Haven't really changed anything else as far as the assessment. The exam, everything else stayed the same. Recommendations changed. When you get good at business and you learn the fundamentals, and George and I have talked about this before, everybody comes to me like, hey, how do you do so well? What's the secret trick? There is not a trick. There's a whole bunch of I's that got to be dotted. There's a whole bunch of T's that got to be crossed, and you need to follow them every day. And you put these in place and you follow this. And if you follow this, you will be successful. That's the secret. But if you learn them and they become habit, it doesn't matter what they throw at you. You go, okay, let me step back. If this isn't working, let's reassess this. Just like when we have a patient. If I have a patient, they come in, I thought it was this, and they have not responded the way I want to. I need to come back and I need to think of this with a clear mind. And I go, okay, you got a fever of 104. You've been on advice for 3 days. So something's either happening where my antibiotic is not working, or I have some other diagnosis that I am not taking care of that I need to look at again.
That's called being a physician.
Yes, those things that if you being a physician makes you where you can be an excellent business person.
But I
You
think
just have to learn that those principles, it takes a little bit of tweaking the way you think. But if you think of your practice as a business and as a patient, where you have to assess it, make a plan, reassess, and take care of them, if you take care of it as well as you take care of your patients, you're going to be a successful business person.
But I think key, which is I can see that in you and George, you care about the quality of the medicine you're practicing.
If you do good quality medicine, then the money will follow. I told you.
Not always. You and
always.
I both know there's some people that are, and I have seen this when I have consulted with physicians. I have seen some people that I think they are very empathetic, good doctors. They couldn't think their way out of a paper bag financially. Okay.
Yes.
And yes, if you are a good physician, people will come to you and you can have the patients and they will come. But if you don't know how to code or take care of financial stuff, you're still going to fail. You have to be good at both. But on the other side, you could be an amazing business person. If you suck as a pediatrician or as a provider, you're not going to make any money because nobody's going to come see you because you suck. So yes, you baseline,
and there's
you
a
have
third
to
one.
be a good.
And there's a third one.
What's that?
You can be a quack and you're intelligent, you're smart. I know people, pediatricians, who have photographic memories. They can tell you the routing number to their practice bank account. They only need to see the check once. They prescribe Bactrim for every kid in the cold from the moment they're 3 months old, and the mothers love them because they know how to do the show. They come in, they high five, they know the kid's name, the father's name, the kid's brother's name, what sport he plays, and they utilize that photographic memory to wow the mom, give the mom what the mom wants, and usher them out of the room as fast as you can. And the averages of numbers is you can do that a lot and not get caught. And the dollars are rolling in because of the way we finance the healthcare system in America. And so we have all kinds of stuff. The thing I was going to share with you, which just cracked me up, the whole recommendations for cervical cancer screening have just changed, right? But the American Society of Cancer, or the American Cancer Society, whatever the name is, and their writing says cervix at risk. And I was just cracking up. I'm like, what does it mean, cervix at risk? Isn't it a woman at risk? I've never gone to a bar and seen a bunch of cervix drinking margaritas at the bar with the guys. It's a woman. Cervix at risk. And that's just the nonsense that these organizations do.
Well, people with a high risk lifestyle, that's your cervix at risk.
Let's just say the women at risk and tell me what the risks are. What risky behavior makes that you should have more than the HIV test?
5 boyfriends in a week. That's cervix.
What's that? What? 5 boyfriends in a week?
Yeah, that's a risk.
The cervix that's been beat up.
Poor cervix. And
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
Well, no, I have more questions. So the other thing you said, which I think is a fascinating business model, is the MDVIP model in pediatrics.
Yes, tell us about that.
Tell me more about that, and what are your goals in that?
That's something I started noticing, that I was having more and more patients that were self-pay, or more patients that had just terrible insurance that didn't pay for anything. So I've done some consulting with physicians, gone into concierge medicine. That's not me. That's not what I want to do. That business model, I think it's great for some people and stuff, but that's just not the way I truly want my whole practice to. I think it's very inviting, especially as you get towards your end of your career, to narrow it down. But where I am now, that's not exactly the way I want to, but I started thinking about it. And so mine is very much a hybrid with these two tiers. The first one is designed for actually people who just want extra stuff, really white glove type behavior, where they're physicians, they're lawyers, they're business owners, and what they want is they want access, but they want to come in very fast and get out fast. So it is a subscription that's really on top of their private insurance. We still bill all their insurance, but what they have is they have a phone number that goes directly to a cell phone, gets them access directly to me fast. When they come in, they skip the line. So as soon as they walk through the door, they go to the next room, and they will be the next ones seen, and they will be the first ones to leave.
So
And
it's Disney Pass, right? You do that.
it's the Disney Pass of medicine. It's not
Yeah.
for everybody, and it shouldn't be for everybody, but for those people, they're willing to pay extra to get it done. And so that's something we charge a monthly fee for that.
Let me
Third
ask
tier,
you, on that, how do you manage if they want to be seen Sunday morning before church?
so we have it where if it's something we can do telemedicine. So they would get a kit in the beginning where they will get notice where they can take pictures and stuff and see. So we're able to see ears, we're able to see things. We can do telemedicine. But again, these are not your overutilizer people.
No, I
These
agree.
are your very high functioning people. They're usually business oriented. The reason they want this is they don't want to see you. And so your overutilizers tend to be more of your Medicaid, Medicare type things where no barrier and they'll just work you to death. These are not those type of people.
And they don't have anything better to do. So you
Right. And so
did,
they're only, it's because, so that's the problem. Now, the other tier is tier 2. These are people who don't have insurance or have just the catastrophic insurance. And so we have a graduated plan where they're less than 2, they pay $250 a month. If they're 2 to 6, they pay $200 a month. If they're over 6, they pay $150 a month. And that is truly the concierge model, where when they come in, they will pay nothing. Now, we don't cover vaccines. That's the only thing we don't cover, but everything else they come in, there's no copays, there's no deductibles. There's times of the year where you won't make money on those, and there's times of the year where they will end up paying for themselves. But it provides a gap for these people that are somebody. That's one of the things going in 2026. If you're not prepared for it, that's going to be something that everybody is fixing to see a bunch of. With these supplements, possibly, or rebates and stuff, pulling out, insurance is going to get a lot more expensive for people.
Yeah.
You're going to see a lot more people that are going to be going self-insured or going to bargain basement bronze level plans. In your pediatric practice, you need to this is the 2026 COVID. When COVID hit, you had to be able to pivot. This year's pivot will be preparing for these patients in your practice who no longer have insurance. And if you don't have a plan where you can put them into place, you're going to be chasing them down to pay their bills and stuff like that. You're going to be having a lot more people file bankruptcies and other bills and just not paying. And so it's one of the things that I see the writing on the wall that you need to be able to pivot and get ready for this.
So we're down the model in Chip Hart. And if you take an average pediatric practice with an average insurance makeup, if you turn every patient in that practice to a subscription model between $50 and $75 a month, you could provide, including vaccines, to all the kids in your practice.
I don't think you can make it with 50 to 75. The vaccines are too expensive.
It's amazing. It's amazing when you divide. It's amazing. It doesn't sound like it's right, but it is amazing when you divide your patient panel by the revenue you make by your patient panel. That would assume everybody pays you, right? So it doesn't work because not everybody's paying you. But if everybody was paying you, it really is a small amount of money compared. It's less than a Verizon bill for one cell phone. And
That would not, so it depends on your patient makeup. So my average patient's 2.5 years old.
yeah. Oh, but
So my vaccine bill's $80,000 to $100,000 a month. There's no way the $50 to $100 would cover it. But if you had a normal practice that was across all ages, yes, I could see where that'd work. But it would work in mine.
yeah,
You
but
have a whole lot of patience.
What?
You have to have a whole lot of patience.
You would. Yeah.
yeah, but
But really, the concierge, their goal is to make as much money as what they did before and have a panel of 300.
But I think, that the second tier yours is more direct primary care model,
It is.
which I think is very valuable, and especially if you have a child with chronic disease and a poor insurance plan. Because it's got to be a pain if you got a bronze and an $11,000 deductible, and you're paying $10,000, $12,000 or more for that plan, and you're middle income, and every time you go in, it's $180 to pay for the refill for that ADHD medication, or you got diabetes, or you got asthma, these chronic conditions. And then you know what you're going to spend, you budget, and this is what I have to spend because the kid's got this condition. I'm done. I don't have to be stressed over that $500 bill that's going to get me from nowhere because it went to my deductible.
I think one of the things, though, people have to be aware of is some of the legalities.
That was going to be my question. Is it okay?
It is. So like the subscription. So the one's very easy. If you want to do VIP where you're letting them skip line and stuff, and they're getting extra perks that are not available for insurance, and you're still billing the insurance and you're collecting copays and there's still deductibles, that one is completely legal. You have no problems because you're offering services above and beyond what their insurance would ever cover. When you do the direct patient care, if they have no insurance, you're golden. When they have insurance, you can't accept it. You couldn't cherry pick and say, okay, for your sick visits, you're going to be able to come in for your subscription fee and we will not bill your insurance, but we will bill your insurance when you come in for your well visit. That will get you in trouble. You can't write off if they have an insurance and they're coming to see you because of the way the insurance, you can't write off their copays, even if they're paying a subscription. You can't write off their deductibles, even if they have a subscription. So you would need to have it in place where it's the version of Good RX. With Good RX, you go in and you go into Walgreens and you have a prescription and you tell them, I have no insurance. Here's my Good RX coupon. Use this. If they have the insurance there, they're going to use that insurance and they're going to charge you that higher amount. And so you have to have it in place where if you know they have an insurance, that they sign a waiver to agree to not use your insurance. Because what will happen if you don't do that? They're going to come in, they'll go through it a month or two. I don't want to pay this. All my insurance pays this. Here's my insurance. Use this. Then you have to have stuff in place. And we have it as a 1-year contract, links to their credit card, the first of the month. If they don't pay by the 15th, then they come off of that subscription model. So you just have to be careful with that. I think that's where people could get in trouble is if especially you cannot advertise it to be insurance. You have to advertise that it's going to be something on top of insurance. And that's where you get in trouble. But if you do it with that model, it is legal in all 50 states.
So I had this conversation with Paulie from PMI, and he says he's helped a couple of offices implement that. And it's in the ACA law. The patient has a right to tell you not to bill the insurance company. And
The
they
other
have
thing
time.
is the subscription models, they cannot use their,
That changed.
What's
HCA,
that?
that changed.
no, they can't use their, what's the thing that you prepay like through your employer?
The health savings accounts or the
use your health savings.
yeah, no,
account
that
for you.
changed. That changed.
It did it?
Yeah, let me tell you what Paulie told me. I'll tell you about that. Paulie said all the clients that he has that do that, where the patient says, I don't want you to bill my insurance, they have to sign that they don't want their insurance billed. And then right below it says, if you change your mind and you ask us to bill your insurance, you will first pay us the full sticker price of the visit. If you're, I don't know, a 99213 visit for you, it's $250. They want you to submit it to insurance. They'll pay you $250 and they collect from the insurance whatever comes back. And he says that way you don't have any problems, people coming back 3 months later and say, oh, I want you to use my insurance now, because it'll cost them money. The HCA thing changed, and this was great work. We had him on the podcast once. Lee Gross. He's a phenomenal family or internal medicine physician in Florida. And through the DPC Association, they've been lobbying the Republican Party to make HCA payments legal for direct primary care. And they got that passed through the Congress this year. It was a huge, phenomenal change.
So the one that he was talking about where you charge them, then they send it into their insurance. I don't think you can legally do that if you have a contract with that insurance company.
No, the ACA says if the patient says, do not bill my insurance,
Yes.
they have that right.
Yes, absolutely.
And so the punishment is if they rescind that first statement, then they pay you up front for all the care you've given them. And they deal with their insurance. You bill it, but you're done. You get the money up front for the full flight. It's like, you asked us not to use your insurance. Now you're asking us to change. This is the penalty clause.
Okay.
And that's how Paulie told me he protects his clients. And if you've been in the practice 3 visits this year, and that would cost you $750, you're not going to go pay the $750 so you built the insurance because you changed your mind. You're gonna be like, I'm done. Forget, move.
You can't do it very well.
That's how he says he protects it. And the HCA thing changed. And that was all Lee Gross. Phenomenal leader in Florida.
All right, guys, this is getting really long.
No, I have one more question. Then we'll end it. I know I have a hard stop. Like, this is a Joe Rogan episode.
We got the top 10 list to do.
How do you set the goals for your marketing budget? And why is it important to have a marketing budget?
I think the problem more should be, I think most people don't know how to market. I think that would be something I need to teach you guys at a different thing. There's things in marketing that I do that nobody does. I have electronic fences around every OB office and the OB floors in my area, so that it knows that if you walk into the OB office twice within a 2-month period of time that you're pregnant. And so now you're getting advertisements for Kids Central Pediatrics. So
Does that cost you $1 million a year? Does that cost you $1 million a year? Does that cost you $1 million a year?
No.
Do you have a staff of 25 marketers doing that?
No, I own a marketing company.
It's fairly affordable.
Yeah. And I can make it affordable for other people. But yeah. And the other thing is I turned my website into a weapon. So instead of it just being an electronic business card, I have quizzes on there. So like I have quizzes that, does my kid have ADHD? So it sits there and it goes through and it gives you a quiz and it grades you. And then it sends me a thing that says, yes, you are scoring high enough that you meet the criteria for ADD or ADHD. It gives me your phone number, your email, and then to my staff, I grade it, I send it to them, and they schedule up an appointment. The same thing for newborns. I have it for my allergy testing and immunotherapy. So I have things like that set up. And so it makes because I'm targeting not to everybody, I target to a very small specific thing. It makes my my spend much more affordable. I have the 3 practices. I spend probably $3,000 to $5,000 a month, and we're getting about 100 newborns per month.
Wow.
Hey, George, are you listening?
Yeah, maybe we should hire you.
Yeah.
The nice thing about having business partners that are IT people, that's the thing I think we have to learn as pediatricians and doctors is A lot of times we think we're good at everything. You need to know where your lane is, and then you hire the people that are outside your lanes. My business partner works with me, and so we build websites. We do Indeed marketing for people for acquiring staff. We do the marketing for different hospital systems and practices across the United States. And they're constantly building this very targeted marketing system that, to be honest, I know very little about unless he tells me about it. But I know that he's the one that goes around the country to these healthcare summits, and he's a keynote speaker in IT. And so it's always nice to have him work with me because he takes care of that part that I don't know anything about.
All
He's
right,
a
guys.
genius. He's a genius, but
Yeah.
the genius, why? Because most geniuses are imitators. So what he's doing is he's building up a lead generation engine, which
Yes.
is what every realtor does. So when you are curious about what your house is worth, they'll have the pitch. You don't even know it's a realtor. It's what is my house worth? You Google it, and then you land on a website, and they ask for your email, and you put your address in, and there's a back engine that says it's worth $250,000, and then all of a sudden you get a call or an email from somebody saying, "Are you interested in buying or selling?"
Yes.
Because you landed on our website, and that is genius imitation, and that has been proven to work like candy. It's just easy. All right, George, let's go ahead and
Let's go. The top 10 list. What's your top 10 list? Rapid fire. And then we'll go with the final thoughts.
what
So
top?
my top 10 list for the
Oh,
next year.
Yep.
Okay. So one, I want to increase collections by beginning a never-ending cycle of contract negotiations.
Beautiful.
We are on a 3-year cycle. I have a company that works with me. And so my major 5 insurance companies, we are renegotiating. And what we do is we have a stepwise increase that happens over the 3 years. At the end of the 3 years, we start negotiations over again.
Can it be done?
Yeah,
As a solo practitioner? Of course it can.
Yeah. And so ROI, anytime, they typically will increase my collections anywhere from 5 to 10% every time we do a contract negotiation. It costs me $5,000 per insurance policy for me to renegotiate. As long as I sit there and I can go, my 5% is going to be increased above the $5,000 that I'm going to pay you. I'm going to give you money every single time because it's a money machine.
Next, 2.
Increased collections by better followed up on denied claims, down-coded claims, which is huge right now, underpaid claims where insurance companies will cheat you. Because I have found that Blue Cross Blue Shield will cheat me a penny on every single claim, every single time.
Correct. 3.
Systems in place to make sure patients are coming in for recommended visits. We want those well-child visits to come in, and so you don't want to have a one that they missed their 15, then they did their 18, so you missed one visit potential. Your best is somebody you already have.
Referrals. Call them back.
I
Recall
have
it.
people to do that. In fact, that's one of the ways I hired my kids. You should always hire your kids because you can pay them up to $16,000 per year tax-free. So it's a free little bit. Save yourself some money.
And number 4.
Systems in place to make sure all vaccines and labs are accounted for, billed, and paid.
Yeah, that's just running reports in OP. That's
You
it.
will find that you will have 5 or 6 of those every single month, probably per provider, thousands of dollars per year.
5.
Increase efficiency and allow 2 more patients per visit per provider. You will collect an extra $72,000 per provider right there just by doing that.
Which one was that? Which one was that?
Number
That's
5.
adding 2 patients per provider per day.
Okay.
Yeah. Number 6.
Move providers. This is my favorite. Quit paying people salaries. Move them to pure production. All of a sudden, they take off and don't work. They don't get paid. They see more patients. They get paid more. The best thing I ever put in my practice.
Yeah. Number 7.
Add more revenue streams to your practice. After hours, allergy testing, immunotherapy, ear piercing, ADHD clinics, weight loss clinics, VIP services.
Number 8, I think, is very important.
Pre-plan your life. Pre-plan your vacations, your weekends. So get them on the schedule. If you don't get them on the schedule, your practice will eat them and you will never get to leave.
Yeah. Number 9.
Make health and wellness goals. Remember that when you're making goals, the whole purpose of money is because it's a tool. You want to be able to use it, and the only way you're going to be using it is if you're healthy.
Yeah. And number 10, the final one.
Make at least one legacy plan. What is your purpose in life? So what are you going to make the world a better place by? This is the long-term goal.
Yeah.
How is this world going to be better off from me being here?
I love it. I love it. So I guess
Um,
final thoughts from you got something to say, Herb?
Oh, unbelievable.
Always have something to say.
I always enjoy talking to him.
Yeah. All right, let's do the final thoughts from everybody. Cliff, you can start. Let's write down at the bottom.
My biggest thought would be take a goal, write it down, make sure it works, make sure you can have it happen, make it big, make it lofty, make it something that has impact. And get it. If you make
Herb?
it 5 goals, you won't get anything done.
Herb, what's yours?
I think for anything, any bucket that you get yourself involved in, have a vision and a mission, and make
Right.
sure the vision's huge.
All right. And my final thoughts, and I'll leave you with independent pediatrics wins when you set a plan, measure it, and execute, because no system can match your agility as an independent physician. You can do anything.
I would like to give you one more thing I paid a lot of money for that I think probably was worth its weight in gold.
Go ahead.
One of my mentors and people that I hired paid a lot of money. This. When you're putting money in the stock market, you're putting money hoping that people have enough spill off that they're going to give it to you from your business. The number one place that you should invest your money and your time is in yourself. You will never let yourself down. The number one advantage for you, your life, your practice, everything is you. Never lose control of that. Always put that as your number one. Your business will become better. Your life will become better. Your everything will become better when you make that a priority. That the number one person that's going to have your best interest at heart is you.
I love it. Thank you very much.
This has been wonderful. I think I need you to come back and we need to talk more.
We got to do one on marketing with you.
I would love to do it on marketing. I learned so much. There's stuff that I swear should be illegal, but it's not.
All right. Wonderful talking to you.
Thank you, Cliff.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. You as
Happy
well.
Hanukkah. Happy New Year.
Happy Hanukkah to you, George.
Thank you for listening. This has been a production of the Pediatric Lounge. On the show notes, you will find links to our co-host and other important notes, as well as a timetable of the topics discussed today. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast. Leave us a great review, as it helps us greatly. In the meantime, we will see you next week. The Pediatric Lounge. The conversations are not intended as medical advice, and the opinions expressed are solely those of the host and guest.